Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe P Zapia, and it's that time. That's right. We are kicking things off. It's draft season, baby. It's mock draft season. This is the first 2024 redraft mock draft right here for your eyes and ears over on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to Fantasy Pros YouTube right now. Drop your comments below. We want to hear from you. Most of the time, I think I want to hear from you. But no, seriously, I want to hear from you all the time. I love all you guys and gals out there who can't get enough fantasy football. And if you're watching mock drafts in May, you're my kind of degenerate, and I'm very proud of you already. Now, we are going to do a full PPR 12-team mock draft today with some of our listeners and some of our friends here over at Fantasy Pros. So if you haven't already run your mock draft, now is the time. Download the Draft Wizard or go to fantasypros.com/draftwizard. Start your mock draft process today because, well, it's never too early to get a sense of the board, whether doing best ball or just getting prepared for your August, September drafts. It's a perfect time to begin. The time is now. And before we get going, I just saw this on social media. It looks like Red Lobster is closing 50 locations. I guess the endless shrimp promotion that they started doing was too much and it put a burden on the restaurant, and now they're closing 50 locations, which brings me to the point. Derek Brown, where were you last night?
I was going to set up a joke for you about where you're going to get lunch from now on, but now it's ruined. Okay. Well, I was trying to close down one of them. I mean, come on, all you can eat shrimp. Who could turn that down, man? Come on, give me a break here.
Nothing like a Cheddar Bay biscuit and a bunch of shrimp. That's all D-Bro needs for all of his best ball drafts ahead of everything. Andrew Erickson, what's your flair restaurant of choice? Actually, I'm going to give you a choice. You got Applebee's, you got Chili's. Where are we going to dinner? And yes, there's a right answer.
Oh, it's Chili's, 100%.
Yes,
yes.
That's why we're friends.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
margaritas.
When I was in eighth grade, me and my friend got kicked out of an Applebee's, and we were told to never come back. So Chili's has always been the spot.
There you go, kids. Getting kicked out of Applebee's just like Ricky Bobby's family. So good. And joining us today, special guest here from our Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros family, John Supowitz, a.k.a. Soupy. You can follow him on X at I'm That Soupy, S-U-P-I, by the way. So, Johnny boy, it's great to have you here on the show. First time as a guest. Welcome aboard. And what is your flair restaurant or chain restaurant of choice, Soupy?
Well, it is that easy because it is Chili's. That is something that me and my wife, you know, the big question is, where are we going to dinner? And you know, the wife is, she's always has the answer right away. But for us, the default answer is always Chili's.
Well, I know your wife won't be listening to this show, so it won't get you in trouble. She hears enough of you all day. All right, we've got 12 teams for you, full PPR, 3 wideouts, 1 flex. We've got some great folks joining us today here. We've got Cheetahs, we've got Casessa, we've got DVR, one of the guys who always wins these mocks. So we'll see if he's already in pole position for 2024. We got Raj J13, Powerfold, Daydreamin'. We got Not. We've got the Scranton Man. We've got I'm That Soupy. That's you, John. So we've got Derek Brown, myself, and was this 30 years young for Andrew Erickson? Is this officially the 30 now? Is that where we are?
Ooh. No, I'm just getting ready for it.
Oh, you're just preparing. All right. Well, let's stop preparing and let's start here. I'm in the 1 spot. Let's kick this draft off here. It's just easier for me to be in the 1 spot. Plus, I'm going to take the Christian McCaffrey this year. Finally, maybe. Will I ever do it? Well, we shall see. We've got at the 1-4, 30 years young Andrew Erickson, D-Bro at the 1-8, and then at the turn, Mr. Supowitz is going to be there. So it should be a very fun draft here. So the question now is, do I put myself out there on the limb like I always do and, go ahead and take a wide receiver because that's what I like to do? Or do I take the running back? D-Bro, what do you think I'm going to do with this 1-1 overall pick?
You're going Chase or Lamb. I know it. I don't need the build-up. I know exactly what you're going to do. He's bypassing CMC, just going to start it off that way. Go ahead, Joey. Go ahead.
Well, if we're going to do 2024 right, we've got to start it off the right way, which is me taking a wide receiver and saying, screw them running backs. Let's go. So here we go. CD Lamb, 1-1 off the board.
There we go. See?
Cheetahs is up next. So Erickson, I know you've been in the best ball street, so you've been on this board a little bit. I just updated my rankings yesterday. I know you guys have been updating your rankings too at fantasypros.com. You can check those out, obviously. So at 104, you kind of have a great position here, Erickson, because you're guaranteed Jefferson, Chase, or Hill. And of course, that is a hell of a way to start your draft.
Yeah, I mean, I picked 104 because I don't necessarily abide by the top 3 guys in consensus ADP. So whether that's McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyreek Hill. So I'd rather have someone else take those guys in front of me, and then I don't feel bad. He's like, oh, I didn't have a chance to take them, so it's not my fault that I didn't draft them. So 104, I can get my 101. Wow. So that was my plan.
Way to not take responsibility in May. Wow, this is an all new record for you. All right, McCaffrey's off the board at 102, 103. We're waiting for that selection here. And again, it's a really good spot to me, D-Bro. This is a year where I'm really happy being in the middle of the first round because I'm going to basically be a lock for Amon-Ra St. Brown or A.J. Brown or any of the players, a wide receiver named Brown, I feel like.
Yeah, I think the middle of the first round is kind of pick your flavor. Do you go with one of the running backs? Do you go Brees? Do you go Bijan? Do you take one of the top wide receivers that could finish wide receiver one overall? Because there are guys that fall into that tier. So I think really it's just, Joey, it's kind of choose your own adventure.
All right, so the adventure starts like this. CeeDee Lamb at the 101, Christian McCaffrey at 102, Tyreek Hill at 103. That's to you, Andrew Erickson, and you took Jamar Chase. Now, we just did a Betting Pro show last week where you and I were lusting after the Bengals and the numbers on them because a healthy Joe Burrow means good things for the Bengals, potentially, not to mention the schedule maybe being a little more favorable to them this year. So how do you feel about getting Chase? Did you want Chase or Hill when it came down to it?
I want to Chase because I'm trying to draft the best team for 2024. When you look at the top 3 guys across the board, Tyreek Hill, Christian McCaffrey, and CeeDee Lamb, those were the best hits from the first round last year. And that's why they're going in order 1, 2, 3. So I'm not trying to copy and paste what happened last year. I'm trying to project forward. And last year I felt really good about Chase. Joe Burrow went down. It didn't work out. But I still feel really good about Chase with a healthy Joe Burrow that he can lead the NFL in red zone targets. And when you look at who has been the wide receiver 1 the last couple of years, it's been the guy who's led the NFL in red zone targets. Last year, it was CeeDee Lamb. Cooper Kupp's year, it was Cooper Kupp. So I think it's going to be Chase that leads the NFL in red zone targets. That's going to make him the wide receiver 1 for me.
Just like Kenny Powers, that's you. I'm not trying to be the best at exercising. Erickson's not trying to draft the best team for 2023. All right, let's go to DVR, who selected Justin Jefferson. Amon-Ra St. Brown right there. And then Breece Hall off the board at 107. D-Bro, you went running back. Salty. Let's go. Maybe saltier than the Applebee's that, Supowitz just had before coming on here. So let's talk about this pick here. This is our boy Bijan Robinson. How do you feel at 108?
Feeling good, man. I mean, I think you could start to make the case for him as early as like 105, 104. I'm looking at those top wide receivers, and if you want to go running back or wide receiver, but Bijan, look, he's gone, man. We should all celebrate. Let's have a party. It's time to run shirtless through the streets, man. Arthur Smith is gone. Bijan Robinson will be unleashed, and I get it. I know everybody's probably already seen it. It's hit the timeline. Bijan's dealing with an ankle issue right now. We are so far away from the season, that doesn't matter. So I'm still drafting Bijan.
Yeah, look, it's May. We shouldn't be worried about ankle injuries or twists or things like that. Daydreamin' selects A.J. Brown next. All right, Soup Master, what are you looking for here at the turn? You've got A.J. Brown off the board, Garrett Wilson off the board at 110. So one pick to you. What do you have looking at here?
Well, I got a couple things on my mind. Yeah, I think in this situation, you're looking at a lot of running backs available. I want a running back that's going to get a lot of carries. I am a little interested in seeing what Saquon Barkley is going to do in this Philadelphia offense. Are they going to give him a heavy amount of carries? Is he going to split with anything? Or are they going to go, again, with Jalen Hurts, he's going to take a lot of carries away from Saquon, especially in the red zone. Is that going to hurt him? But again, he has that pass catching ability. So for me, he would be a safe bet to put on, especially I think in this offense that can move the ball very fast.
What's so amazing, D-Bro, Puka Nacua, undrafted last year, the 111 pick, the Puka juice, my friend, tastes delicious in 2024. When you're trying to evaluate Puka Nacua, I'll let Suppy make his picks here. D-Bro, when you're trying to evaluate Puka in 2024, though, expectations or hope, at least, is that Cooper Kupp is going to be healthier and in a good position to contribute. But again, it's another year into the career for him. Do you think the 111 is the right price for Puka? Do you think he is truly a 1-1 pick, especially with Cooper Kupp still there and Kyren Williams being so good last year in this offense?
I do. I've got Puka right now as my 9th overall player, and we want to bet on second-year wide receivers, right, Joey? Well, why don't we just make a bet on a guy that already broke out and was massive and awesome in his rookie season and saying, hey, guess what? What if that divide lengthens even further, because when him and Cup were on the field last year, Puka was the wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per game. What if Cup another year older, Puka going into his second season? What if that top 12 becomes top 5? And that's the bet you're making, that he can get to that level, and I'm not going to bet against it.
I wouldn't either. I love the start here for the Soup Man here. So, John, you selected Saquon Barkley and Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison's going to get all the targets. Saquon Barkley, all the carries here. So, a unique situation where Barkley finally has the best offensive line he's played with probably ever. Let's just say what it is. And Harrison, who, although, again, he's a rookie, he stands to get 100-plus targets easily in this offense. So, talk to me about these two selections and how you feel about the start of this team.
So, like you said, Saquon Barkley has not had an offensive line pretty much his entire career. I'm a Giants fan. I already know the pain. And and again, this is an offense that can move very fast. There's a lot of options too. And he's going to definitely Jalen Hurts is going to take away some runs from Saquon, but you give him the ball in the open space, Saquon can make some moves. I think he's going to be a very potent part of this offense. And like you said about Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm not a big fan of taking rookies this early in the draft because you never know what's going to happen. But to me, this is one of the best receivers that Kyle Murray has had in a very long time, in the last couple of years especially. And I think it's going to be between him and Trey McBride dividing targets. But he needs that guy that can just push the ball downfield. And like you said, he's definitely going to get over 100 receptions this year.
I love it. I think it's a great start. And I agree. I think over 100 receptions is absolutely, and as Derek Brown likes to say, the range of outcomes. But I love this start. I'm with you 100%. It looks exactly like what I would have done down there. Jahmyr Gibbs at 202, then Jonathan Taylor at 203. So 3 running backs in the last 4 picks right there. Devontae Adams goes at 204 to daydreaming, and that brings up Derek Brown. Is Chris Olave indeed your dream of a pick here, D-Bro?
He is. I felt like I needed to get a wide receiver at this spot. A lot of guys I liked. I kind of debated between Brandon Ayuk, Drake London, going full bore into the Atlanta Falcons offense, but I'm kind of hedging here. I'm going to go with Olave, and the difference between him and Ayuk just comes down to target volume. Adding another talented wide receiver to the 49ers equation, what's that going to do? Ayuk performed amazing last year, and this is not so much an anti-Ayuk take, but when you're getting into these rounds and you're looking at all these wide receivers and you're splitting hairs, Chris Olave, I just look at, okay, can Derek Carr be any better? If he sucks, can Spencer Rattler be better than he is? And Chris Olave, we know, look at the composition of that offense. He is going to eat this year as far as target volume. So I'm just betting on the high-end part of the target volume. If he can reach that, he pays off here.
I got to tell you, I'm shocked you didn't take Drake London. I thought
about it. I thought about it.
I feel like you're as shocked as I am that you didn't do that. I think this is going to be a one-off. I think this is you kind of like shaking the dust off before we get will the real Derek Brown please stand up for the love of God, please. All right.
If I didn't take Bijan, I would have gone London. I'll say that.
Yeah. All right. So Chris Olave goes, then Brandon Ayuk goes next. Michael Pittman at 207. Great value there. Drake London off the board at 208. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers in a row. But that streak is broken by young Andrew Erickson, 30 years young, with Travis Etienne at 209. Let's talk about the selection here. Chase, then Etienne. How you feeling about how this is going for you so far, Erickson?
Well, I was looking at some of the wide receivers, but then my queue got basically nuked because of all the receiver run you were talking about. So For me, I think that there's a teardrop after Travis Etienne at running back. Like, he's one of the few running backs I feel like I can put in my RB1 slot and feel confident about his production week in and week out. I know that the second half of last year wasn't exactly what happened in the first half when he was a top 3 running back in fantasy points scored, but the Jaguars basically entirely collapsed. Like, the entire offense collapsed. Trevor Lawrence was hurt. Christian Kirk was hurt. The offensive line was injured. So I'm going to believe in Etienne. They picked up their 5th-year option on Etienne, which not every running back has. Najee Harris's, for example, didn't get picked up. So I think there's confidence in Etienne, and I'm not afraid of other running backs in that backfield taking touches away from Etienne. We did the Tank Bigsby experiment last year. Like, he's the same guy. So I think Etienne is going to dominate the touches in a productive offense. I think bounces back in 2024.
All right. Josh Allen goes off the board at 210. Then DJ Moore at 211. I went with my safe guy here, and Mike Evans at 212. Mike Evans last year, a strong season. I know he's getting up there in age, but my goodness, still, almost 80 catches last year, 13 touchdowns. he's the touchdown maker there. And Baker Mayfield has been kind of the guy that we were hoping he would become all of a sudden. I don't know, a half a dozen teams later. He finally figured it out. It's a beautiful thing. I kind of got stuck here with the running back spot because I did feel like I wanted to grab one. It was between Derrick Henry and Kyren Williams, but because it was full point PPR, I'm going to give it a shot with Kyren Williams maybe catching some balls because Derrick Henry's not the biggest receiver necessarily. Not that Kyren's crazy in that department either. He did have 48 targets last year, but again, I really think that there's opportunity here for this Rams team to be very pesky if they can stay healthy. And I know that's a huge if. Sam Laporta was also on my radar. I was going back and forth on that, but I wanted to grab a running back. Laporta does go at 302, followed by Kelsey. So there you go. The two big tight ends off the board. Erickson, do you think that's correct, Laporta over Kelsey this year? Or you think that maybe we're putting the cart before the horse and Travis Kelsey ain't done yet?
No, I don't think it's incorrect. I just feel bad for Laporta because he's so expensive, and I just don't think it's just hard for tight ends to pay off this price tag, like unless he is Travis Kelsey. So again, I don't think that it's wrong that Laporta is the tight end one. I just think that being the tight end one is not a good return on your investment.
There you have it. All right, you selected Jalen Waddle, 304. Seems like a little bit of a value considering where we were ranking him last year. I understand injuries kind of derailed him a bit last season. Still, 72 receptions, only 4 touchdowns. That was a little disappointing. How you feel about getting Waddle here in the 3rd round? Seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, I think that the Dolphins are an offense you want pieces of, very explosive, and they put their players in position for success. And as you know, how Waddle struggled last year was really more injury related. Like he still had a career high in PFF receiving grade and yards per route run. So he was still uber efficient, like what we see from most Dolphins players. So if Tyreek Hill takes any step back, as he enters age 30, just like me, I think Tyreek Hill, or excuse me, I think Jalen Waddle could make some noise.
So should we get rid of you when you turn 30?
Touchdowns.
Remember this, Derek.
I'm hoping Blaine doesn't, and Mayer.
Right.
I hope they don't.
We'll see. We're gonna make you run a 40 for sure.
Make
Derrick
you feel
Henry
good. We
goes,
haven't been put out the pasture yet, so you got a ways to go,
not
Erickson.
Not yet. And never me, because no one knows how old I really am. Derrick Henry, 305. Jalen Hurts at 306. Nico Collins at 307. Great selection there. I also almost was considering him. Devonta Smith goes to Debro at 308. Debro, let's talk about the selection. So Bijan, Olave, Devonta Smith. You feel good about this grouping so far to start?
Feel good about it. I mean, looking at the Philadelphia Eagles offense last year, what else could have gone wrong for them? Brian Johnson was a terrible OC. They bring in Kellen Moore. Can that help ignite this offense? And we know it's going to run through A.J. Brown to Devonta Smith. And right now, really, it's a mix of ceiling and floor. We've seen him be the wide receiver 14 and the wide receiver 20 over the last 2 years. So I'm getting wide receiver 2 production. And if Kellen Moore can reignite this offense to be like what it was the previous season, maybe Smitty is top 15, close to top 12 yet again.
All right, after Devonta Smith, then Deebo Samuel goes off the board. Some question marks whether or not he's going to be a 49er when we turn into June. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, little QB run. And then, Suppy, Mr. Supowitz, you are up here with back-to-back picks again and again, running back and wide receiver. Let's talk about Rachaad White and Cooper Kupp.
For me, Rachaad, this was actually probably no-brainers for me on both sides. I love Rachaad White because, again, this is a full PPR. I'm taking a guy who's going to catch the ball. He had 64 catches last year, 700 yards, 3 touchdowns on just on receiving alone. And then you got him. They gave him the ball a lot, 200 carries. He's going to get the ball. I thought it was going to be Sean Tucker. I really wasn't sure about Rachaad White going to a second year, but he absolutely surpassed his expectations, and I think they're going to give him the same offense. He's going to get that same production. And Cooper Kupp, he missed a couple games last year, but again, this is going to be Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. They're going to get the bulk of the targets, and he's still one of the best slot receivers in the game. Matthew Stafford still has confidence in him. So, again, I'm still guaranteeing he's going to get 120-plus targets and probably get around 80 to 90 catches this year.
Scranton selects Diggs, then Josh Jacobs, Isaiah Pacheco at 404. Debro, Trey McBride at 405. You're up with another pick here, but another tight end off the board. So far as we are in the 5th round, right now, this is at pick 405, though. There are 4 tight ends. This was the 3rd one off the board. How do you feel about Trey McBride here at 405? Do you see him being the clear number 2 here in this offense, despite the fact that Zay Jones just signed a few days ago?
Yeah, I think he's the clear number 2, and I won't be surprised if at the end of the year he could possibly have more targets than Marvin Harrison Jr. And I know nobody's ready to have that conversation, but it's possible, man. Like, what he was doing over the back half of last year, he was the tight end 1 in every single metric that you look at. And I get there was nobody else there. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to open up the field, and it's really these two guys. And I don't really understand this, Joey. Like, what happened to the years of we believe in elite tight ends being difference makers? We saw McBride go out there and just crush down the back half of last season. And yet, in a year where, if this is any other year, McBride should be in the 20s. He should be going in that range, like the high 20s to mid 20s, where Mark Andrews has been going every single season. But yet, this year, it's not happening. So I'll look at Trey McBride as a fantastic value right now.
Devon Achane goes next at 406, then DK Metcalf, James Cook, back to Andrew Erickson at 409, and you went wide receiver. Who'd you take?
Who did I take at wide receiver?
Amari Cooper. Are you awake even? I mean, come on.
No,
This is what happens. You turn 30, all of a sudden, this is what happens. Things start to go in decline, and, this is why the NFL kicks you out.
No, I because you said Devon Achane, and I just was blown in my mind that he was available like the 5th round.
Fourth
Think
round.
that happened?
We're 406. Again,
I didn't know why I didn't notice that, because I would have taken him clearly above Amari Cooper. I'm being totally honest. I didn't realize he was this far down.
No, you're completely turned around. Look, I know this is the first one of the year, but let's get you straight. So what happened was Cooper Kupp went, and then it came all the way back down. Achane, Metcalf, Cook, and then you took Amari Cooper at 409. You didn't have a chance. If you wanted him, you would have had to selected him way before. You would have had to take him over Jalen Waddle. Does that set the record straight for you?
Okay, yeah,
This is
yeah. No, I
fantasy
mean,
football.
So many Dolphins,
I'm very
so little
surprised that
time.
he was still available, because I've seen him go like in some of these other drafts I've done, like in the 2nd round.
Well,
Like,
that's
so that's
crazy.
kind of where I expected him to be. So to see him fall around 4, I maybe would have done something differently. But yeah, Amari Cooper. We talked about him on one of the.
He still
the
didn't
safe
make it to
shows.
you at round
He's
4,
a
you
safe
nut
wide
job.
receiver. He's a safe wide receiver as my number 3, and I wish I had Achane instead, but I'll be happy.
So would you have taken him over Jalen Waddle? That's the move you would have had to make.
Yes, probably, yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're shaking the dust off here for you. Keenan Allen goes next, CJ Stroud at 411, and then at 412, after CJ Stroud goes, I'm very happy to select Anthony Richardson with the 12th pick, 4th round. Yeah, let's go. I'm all in. I love it in the single quarterback leagues too, because it's so easy to back this up later. It is not hard at all. So I love this pick. And in a PPR, my RB2 is Alvin Kamara, who's going to catch a ton of balls, because whoever's playing quarterback is going to be limited for the New Orleans Saints. So that means a lot more targets for Alvin Kamara, who, by the way, last year, I just want to say, despite the fact that he missed some games, still had 86 targets, caught 75 balls. Can we just talk about that for a second? I know it's only 6 touchdowns on the year, but still, that's more on the offense than on him. After Alvin Kamara goes, Zay Flower goes at 502, Joe Mixon at 503, and then Andrew, you made a pick at 504, and you selected a tight end named Mark Andrews. Are you aware of this? I just want to be sure before we talk about it.
Yes, I was paying attention. Just the Achane pick surprised me where he went, and when you name dropped him, my brain did one thing, and it was reactionary. And yeah, so Mark Andrews, fifth round pick. I like the value there. Mark Andrews is my tight end 1 in my rankings, and I just like the value on him versus a Laporta, Travis Kelce in round 3, or even a McBride in round 4, because I think that, at least in my way, that I have like the tier 1 of tight ends, like I could see any of these guys finishing as tight end 1 overall. So whenever I feel that way, I was trying to get the guy latest, and that's Andrews for me.
Now, one of the great things here on the FantasyPros software for Draft Wizard is the pick predictor. If Erickson was smarter, he would have used that, and he would have seen Devon Achane still being around here and available potentially earlier. So don't be like Andrew. Use the tools here at FantasyPros, including the pick predictor, at any given time to make sure that you don't have the player you want pass you by rounds later or rounds before. Malik Neighbors, 505. Then Kenneth Walker, 506. Christian Kirk at 507. Kyler Murray at 508 to Derek Brown. So Debro, Stroud, Richardson off the board. And you went QB. I'm kind of surprised. I didn't think you would do this, but I get it. It is the little mini stack there with McBride and Murray, and you are a DFS guy at heart.
Yeah, and I look at both of these guys as they're really good values. Like linking up McBride and Murray right now. And Kyler Murray, can we not say that he still has top 3 overall upside? Considering the rushing, if we see it come back even more this year, the offense takes another step forward. Hell, they're just a more efficient offense with all the additions they made this offseason, including the offensive line. So Kyler Murray, I'm drafting him as much as humanly possible because I think that top 3, top 5 ceiling is definitely there. And so to stack him up, I know, we don't talk about it. You're not trying for stacks in redraft, but if it happens, it happens. And I'm just investing like we talked about. I bypassed one with going away from London. I'm not bypassing another going away from Kyler Murray.
Top 3 is hard for me to buy. 5, I can listen. It is. Well, because
for Kyler?
For Kyler, yeah. Well, not
tell me
it's
why,
Kyler.
Joey, because I got to hear
I will.
this take.
I'm happy to tell you
ahead.
why. It's because I look at the other quarterbacks in their respective offenses, and I have a hard time finding he's going to leapfrog Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, possibly Anthony Richardson as well, possibly even, look, even Jalen Hurts. How many times are we going to, continue to look at Jalen Hurts every year and he's up at the top of the board? So I think it's hard to leapfrog all those guys. Top 5 in that mix, yeah, but I don't think the Cardinals are quite an elite offense. So I still look at, we're undervaluing Patrick Mahomes. I know it sounds crazy, but this is a guy who's going to throw for 5,000 yards most years. Last year was a complete disaster based upon the players he was playing with and how terrible they were and Kelsey being hurt. It's not going to be the case this year. They've already made big adjustments to this offense in terms of talent. So to me, I don't think it's going to be an issue. So that's my problem. Not that Kyler can't get top 5, but top 3 I think is a little tougher. So I'll take that bet. Endless Shrimp. Yeah. All right.
Okay. I'm on Debro's side.
Yeah.
I think he'd be top 3.
I'm old enough to
remember. He's played more games than Richardson. He can play a season. We know that. That doesn't work in Richardson's favor.
Well, Kyler Murray's, size has been an issue at times as well. It's not like he hasn't taken some hits and gotten the crap beat out of him and not played up to his ability or missed time too. Just saying.
The Cardinals at home last year,
John,
every game went
John,
over.
Do you want to be
over
on
in
the
the
boys?
dome?
Do you want to be on the side of the boys here, John, or you want to be on the right side with me?
Don't
feel the peer pressure how he set that up.
I'm believing in Kyler Murray this year. I really do. I was apprehensive when he came back. I said, "There's no way that he is going to be able to be as productive as he was, especially coming off the injury." But he played very well at the end of the year. And now again, you're adding Marvin Harrison Jr. You already see what Trey McBride can do. And let's see if James Conner stays healthy. This could be a great offense this year. And yes. I really do love Kyler Murray's potential.
Soupy, I need your words.
I think definitely a top 5 floor.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll see how it all shakes out. Okay. I will say this. I think you're all had one too many margaritas at the Chili's. That's what I think right now.
I'm old enough to remember Kyler Murray being QB3 in 2020 , Joey. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that.
I remember
maybe
that,
you're too old to remember that. Maybe.
Well, Erickson's definitely too old to remember it. The NFL draft is over, and the teams are set. However, it's time to start looking ahead to the NFL season with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Get a jump start on the season with futures bets and division winners, win totals, stat leaders, and much, much more. Right now, download the Betting Pros app. Start betting smarter, not harder, to help you achieve all your NFL wagering goals this year. But the real key, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use that promo code FantasyPros. New customers bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code FantasyPros only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Let's run through some more of these picks here. After Murray, Pickens, T. Higgins at 5'10", Terry McLaurin at 5'11", and then Suppy, that's you, the Soup Man. I keep saying Suppy because it's Suppowitz, but it's Soupy. It's really confusing. You're going to have to work on that, John.
Tell the kids in my freshman year in high school to get my last name right. And
please. My last name is Pizza Pia. I've been called Pizza Pizza my entire life, and everyone thinks they're the first person to ever discover it.
Hey, I can't tell what 14-year-old kids do to my name.
No, it's all right. So, Suppowitz,
trust me,
I apologize.
Even my graduation, even at my own graduations, they still get my name right. You write it down like this is how you pronounce it, and you still get it wrong.
That's what happens. All right, so at the turn here, you went quarterback and tight end. Let's talk about these two picks of Joe Burrow and Evan Ingram.
Yeah, I love what Joe Burrow can do when he is on the field. You still have Jamar Chase, you still have T. Higgins. It's and now I think it's going to be a great year for Chase Brown. I like Chase Brown more than I like Zach Moss. I think that's again great offense. Joe Burrow, when he is on the field, he puts up a ton of points. This is going to be a high passing offense. And then when I have the chance to get Ingram in towards my mid round, I'm taking him. Tight end 6 in 2022, tight end 2 in last year. And plus, I love taking former Giants that now excel after they leave my team. So
there you go.
But again, the production, you didn't see that many you didn't see that many touchdowns from Evan Ingram until midway through the season, and then he got on that touchdown run. I think it's going to be a lot better going to this year. I think he could definitely get to 6, maybe 7, 8 touchdowns this year.
Next up, Aaron Jones at 602, Tank Dell at 603, David Montgomery at 604, and then D-Bro, I love this pick. We're friends again. Zamir White at 605. This is a huge value. Tremendous job here. He is severely underranked. I think you and I probably have him higher than most people on our early boards.
Yeah, man. Right now, and I'm double checking my ranks, so I'm not lying to people out there.
Well,
I've got
be careful.
Zamir White.
You're coming up soon, so I don't want to miss your pick here either. So don't get off the screen here. I don't want you to get auto pick because then I'll never hear the end
I'm good.
of it.
I'm good.
Right.
I've got Zamir White as my RB14 right now in my ranks, and I just look at it as like we're bypassing the volume. Why? And I don't really understand it. I mean, you look at Zamir White last year, he averaged 23.3 touches. He was the RB12 when he was the starter, and I get it was a small sample size, but if he can hold up under the volume, he's going way too late in drafts. I mean, come on, guys. Like at his floor, if he stays healthy, he's getting 300 touches in this offense. At that spot in the draft, you're telling me I can get access to 300 touches? I'm going to be drafting a lot of Zamir White.
Makes sense to me. I'm with you. And they didn't do anything in the draft to basically shake that idea from your brain.
Nope.
Chris Godwin at 606, Ramondre Stevenson 607, Dak Prescott 608, Xavier Worthy at 609 to the young man Andrew Erickson. So let's talk about Worthy and your expectations because he's not the only rookie wide receiver you just drafted here today.
I mean, I love Xavier Worthy. I loved him as a prospect. I love that he's on the Chiefs, and I'm just trying not to overthink it. You know, we have a player that Andy Reid and our own Thor Nystrom, has compared Xavier Worthy to Deshaun Jackson. So, again, if you can put that guy in an offense with Patrick Mahomes, I'm just not going to overthink, they're going to ease him in, the targets with Rice and Kelsey and the running backs. I'm just not going to overthink it. Like, this guy is perfect for Patrick Mahomes, and I'm going to draft him in fantasy football.
All right. Rashee Rice goes next at 6'10", so more to come on him, I'm sure, as we get some more information. He should just stay home. Netflix and chill, Rashee. Netflix.
He needs to get out of Texas.
Please.
He needs to go to Kansas City.
Seriously. Calvin Ridley at 6'11", then I took Jaden Reed at 6'12". He is my third wide receiver, and James Conner, a little bit of RB depth. After this, I think the RB board just gets real ugly real fast, and Connor's been pretty solid here. So when Kyler Murray is QB1 overall, like everybody else says here on the show, James Conner is going to have a great year, all those touchdowns. DeAndre Swift at 7'2", Tony Pollard at 7'3", and then back to you, Erickson, for Ladd McConkey. I was hoping you would make it back to me in the next round. He did not. You're a jerk, but I love you anyway. Great selection here at Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, I mean, look, Justin Herbert is a really good quarterback, and I think that Ladd McConkey is the best wide receiver on the Chargers. So I'm not afraid of Quentin Johnson. We're not afraid of Joshua Palmer. I get that the overall passing volume isn't going to necessarily be a ton in this Chargers offense with Harbaugh kind of running the show. He wants to run the football, but I mean, you can only run the ball so much with Gus Edwards, Kamani Duvall, and J.K. Dobbins before it's like, hey, we got to throw the ball sometimes. And I think Ladd McConkey is going to be on the receiving end of a lot of play action throws. He's going to be really efficient and in the red zone. So I think that he has a really high-end potential as a rookie.
Hollywood Brown goes next, 705. Interesting that Brown went after Worthy and Rice. I don't think that's correct necessarily. D-Bro, do you think that's right? Do you think that's the order? Worthy, Rice, Brown? I think it should be Brown, Worthy, Rice, to be honest with you.
God, we're just fighting on this show, Joey. I think that's the correct order.
Are you saying I made a bad pick? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm
Picked
just
the wrong
surprised.
Chiefs receiver?
Well,
You're surprised?
Part of this is,
another great feature at Fantasy Pros and Draft Wizard is cheat sheets. So if you're using the proper cheat sheet, you're always going to make the right selection. You could use a combination of Derek's picks, of the ranks between Erickson, myself, make a hybrid, or pick other analysts here, like Mr. Supowitz over there. But no, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's interesting because Brown is the veteran, and typically the veterans get that first crack. That's what I'm saying. D-Bro, what do you say?
He could probably get the first crack at the trainer's table when he ends up with foot issues like he's had the last few years. So
tough for him today.
When that happens, I mean, sure, he's first in line, but for targets, I don't know. He was pretty bad last year in Arizona, Joey. So
let's talk about.
Yeah.
All right, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'll continue. I'm gonna make my picks here while you continue to go on and on here about this. Let's get some more picks here off the board. So after Hollywood Brown, Javonte Williams, Jordan Addison, and then you took Deontay Johnson at 708. All right, so sell me on this one, D-Bro.
It just comes down to volume, and when we're playing full PPR, I'm playing for the volume, and we know Deontay is going to get it. I mean, look at all of the terrible quarterbacks he's had to deal with. Even like late stage Ben Roethlisberger was really bad. Deontay Johnson just hoovers volume everywhere he goes, and if we have any faith that Dave Canellis can turn this offense around, turn around the career of Bryce Young, then Deontay Johnson's going to be the clear wide receiver one of this offense. Like, I'm not putting that with Xavier Leggett, and I'm not going to, put that title on Adam Thielen, considering he's another year older. So Deontay Johnson, I just feel like is a PPR cheat code for where he's going in drafts.
Scott Bogman, our friend here over at Fantasy Pros, he suffered from late stage Ben Roethlisberger. It was really bad for a while. But luckily he's got Justin Fields maybe this year. So fingers crossed. Hopefully that'll get better. Dalton Kincaid at 709, Najee Harris at 710, and then George Kittle at 711, which brings us back to John with two picks here at the turn, 712 and 801.
Yeah, I went with Jalen Warren just because we saw that Najee Harris did not get his fifth-year option. So, again, the writing is on the wall. And as we saw during the end of last year, he started to get more catches. He had 4 or more catches in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the last 5 games. I think he's going to start. It was a 60-40 for the most part, almost even. But I think he's going to start to get more of the carries this year, the bulk of the carries. And then I went Roma Duniz because a rookie – we got the rookie with Caleb Williams. He needs a big target. And what I like about Roma Duniz is he is that big target. He is a dependable catcher, but he can gain separation. A lot of people are comparing him to Mike Williams, but I think he's actually a better runner than Mike Williams, a better route runner than Mike Williams, and he gets separation better than Mike Williams. So I think he's going to be very dependable this year.
All right. After Odunze goes, then you have Nick Chubb at 802, DeAndre Hopkins, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then another running back, Debro, your third, Devin Singletary. Again, he's the new starter for New York. So as your third guy, I think you could certainly do worse than Singletary considering the setup he's got this year.
I mean, again, it's just a volume play, guys. Like, why is Devin Singletary ranked as an RB3 in a lot of different spots? Why is he going as late as he's going? Like, we might not love the Giants, but he's going to get a ton of volume, and volume is the highest correlation to fantasy scoring for as far as the running back position. Like, who else is going to take that job away from him? Like, Tyrone Tracy, I like him as a prospect. He's not going to eat into the volume for Devin Singletary. Like, if he goes down, sure, we could talk about him as a high-end handcuff, but nobody's coming for that volume this year. So I'll look at Singletary. I'm going to have him ranked as a top 24 running back.
Kyle Pitts at 806, then Cortland Sutton at 807. So you can't take him this year, Erickson. Austin Eckler at 808. Brian Thomas to Erickson at 809. All right, so this selection, the Jaguars in the draft took Brian Thomas Jr. He is pretty buried on your wide receiver depth chart right now, by the way. You still only have one running back as of the 8th round. So you are zero RBing the heck out of this one here, Erickson.
I mean, I think the correct term is hero RBing, because I have ETN, and that's what I talked about when I drafted. I was like, I feel good about him, my RB1, and then RB2, it's going to be fight to the death for whoever is going to fill in that week. And I mean, I can't ever say I was sniped on Devin Singletary. I was like, I got my guy, my RB2, I'll slide him in.
You'd utter here in May.
Yeah, so I had to pivot to the next other very replaceable running back in Gus Edwards. Just think again, until he gets hurt, I think he's the starting running back for the Los Angeles Chargers, who I'm now very heavily invested in this offense with Ladd McConkey and Gus Edwards, and their quarterback is still on the board. So maybe more to come when it comes to the Chargers.
I love a tease. So good. Tajee Spears, who Erickson probably should have drafted if he was looking at the suggestions over on Draft Wizard, which, by the way, is going to suggest players for you at every position or the best overall selection for your specific team as you're drafting. Amazing features here at Fantasy Pros. Then Raheem Mostert at 811, so obviously nobody's buying last year from Mostert. Tyler Lockett goes to me at 812, and Christian Watson, so I'm looking for a bounce back from Christian Watson. If he's healthy, I still think he's an incredibly explosive player. We just got to get him healthy. Jacoby Myers at 902, then Brian Robinson at 903, Gus Edwards at 904. Erickson, talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier he's going to be the lead running back for the Chargers. Again, Kamani Duvall is getting a lot of hype. They have J.K. Dobbins, who may or may not be healthy. We don't know. But Gus Edwards is familiar with that offense. Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator, and he was there with Baltimore with Gus Edwards, who, again, for running backs not Nick Chubb, Gus Edwards is another running back that always seems to average 5 yards per carry every single year. So he doesn't catch a lot of passes, but I think that he can rush for a lot of yards here and potentially score some touchdowns.
All right, very good. Let's continue on here with the draft. After you make that selection, it goes down to David Njoku, Mike Williams at 906, Zach Moss at 907, and then Josh Downs to you, Derek Brown at 908.
This is just investing in the Indianapolis Colts offense, taking another step forward. Can Anthony Richardson be that guy? Can he be the difference maker? And look, Adonai Mitchell is a fantastic add to this offense. He still might not be the number 2 wide receiver, and without a tight end of consequence, somebody else is going to have to get targets after Michael Pittman. It could be Josh Downs.
All right, moving on to the next selection here on the draft board. After you get Josh Downs, TJ Hawkinson, who isn't going to be ready most likely for the start of the season. We know that, so it depends on how much time he misses. Jameson Williams at 910, Keon Coleman at 911, and then 2 more wide receivers for John at the turn. Let's talk about Romeo Doubs and Curtis Samuel. That's a cagey one. Samuel, I was hoping would make it back to me. You stole him out of my queue. I wouldn't be shocked if Samuel had a better season than Coleman. Would you be?
No, I don't know about a better season than Coleman, but I love getting Curtis Samuel. He feels like a warm blanket, just somebody that you can slip into your flex, and he'll get you like 10, 12 points in PPR. And he's going to Buffalo, Joe Brady is the offensive coordinator there. Curtis Samuel, very, very familiar with Joe Brady. I think he's going to know how to use him. Another guy who can line up in any spot on the field, even take rushing attempts. I just love having Curtis Samuel on in my roster every year.
All right, Samuel off the board. Chase Brown, Jahan Dotson, Jonathan Brooks. Oh, D-Bro, that one hurt. But you pivoted. I don't know. You and I both were just waiting, see how far we could go here. But Jonathan Brooks goes at 10:04. D-Bro and I are going to be fighting over. So now we know, round 9, D-Bro, if we want him. Trey Benson, though, nice pivot at 10:05. You got to feel good about that one.
I do, and this is, again, just taking upside shots. If injuries happen, and we've seen this for James Conner over a few different years, and I don't want to project injuries because he was freaking awesome last year, but even in a part-time role in this offense, we know he's probably going to be flex-worthy even in the early part of the season, and if Conner goes down, Trey Benson's a top 15 running back.
All right, Benson off the board, Jerome Ford, Jerry Jeudy, Josh Palmer at 10:08, Jaleel McLaughlin at 10:09. So, Erickson, it feels like somebody is playing into Bo Nick's strength.
I love it.
Oh, yeah, the check down king. And actually, it was weird. D-Bro had panned to the camera, and he looked like he was like a disappointed dad. And I was like, did he just realize I picked Jaleel McLaughlin before he could?
I was upset.
Is that what
I was
is that what just happened? I was like,
a little bit more than upset.
Did he try to stare into my soul about how I drafted McLaughlin over he did? But yeah, that's what I'm buying into. I just don't see the commitment with the Broncos team for Javonte. Like, it's the last year of his contract. He hasn't really been the same since he came back from that injury. And basically, since Sean Payton got there, all he's done is add other running backs and use the other running backs. And yes, Javonte had stretches of games last year where he was kind of productive, but it just seems like to me like they're ready to move on. And McLaughlin, especially how effective he was last year, I know D-Bros kind of looked at him as like the discount version of Achane, basically as a super efficient running back you can get really late. And yeah, maybe week 1, it's more of a muddled backfield, but if he can carve out a bigger role, especially as that pass catcher, I feel good about him as another running back I can kind of slide into my RB2 slot.
Brandon Cooks at 10:10, then Ezekiel Elliott. I took Jake Ferguson at 10:12, and Charbonnet at 11:01. My Q got obliterated that round, so unfortunately, I'm not too happy with how things went there. Adam Thielen at 11:02, Chuba Hubbard at 11:03, then Blake Corum back to you here, Erickson. So now we're starting to throw darts at the running back position. Feels pretty right to me, Erickson. I like what you're doing here.
Yeah, I think that Blake Corum is just like the perfect bench running back that you want in fantasy, whether it's redraft, best ball. I think it's perfect because the minute that Kyron Williams goes down, like Blake Corum, we're going to be ranking as a top 12 running back. Like, no hesitation because of the projected volume he's going to see. And we saw what he could do with volume at Michigan. All he did was score touchdowns. It'd be productive. So is he the most elite running back? No, but he can take on volume, and should that opportunity arise for him in Sean McVay's offense, I think Corum would be a really great fantasy asset.
All right. After Corum, Demario Douglas, Gabe Davis, Roshan Johnson, then Jermaine Burton to Derek Brown. Burton, a player with a lot of talent. So I guess here's the big question. It's an early draft. Is this pick in anticipation of T. Higgins being gone, or is this regardless if T. Higgins is there?
This is regardless. Doesn't matter. Like at his floor, if we get Tyler Boyd type of wide receiver 4 production out of Jermaine Burton, then that's okay. I'm fine with that. He's going to have his weeks. But can we also say that Burton at this point in his career is a better player than Tyler Boyd? I think that's emphatically yes as well. And you have the upside if T. Higgins moves on, then, I mean, come on, guys. He's a wide receiver 3. What, like in ranks? We're going to he's going to be vaulted as a top 36 wide receiver. Am I wrong in that?
Not necessarily. Xavier Legette, then Antonio Gibson, Dallas Goedert, Kendre Miller, and Brock Bowers close us out and start the 12th round. So Miller and Bowers to you, John. Your thoughts on getting Bowers here so late? And can he be a guy, right away in this offense? So much talent, but I guess the question is the quarterback play in the offense with Devontae Adams there still too. Is there enough for Brock Bowers in fantasy in 2024?
I think from where I got him, there's definitely going to be enough. He is going to be on the field a lot. I see a high snap share for him. He's a great blocking tight end, and he lined up 56% in the slot position. So I think he can move in and out of that lineup, put him in any spot. I think he's going to get a lot of more catches than people might believe, even with Michael Mayer on the other side of that field.
Yes, well, don't talk about Michael Mayer too loud because we work with him too. And, if you say his name one more time, he'll end up showing up. It's like the Candyman. It's a terrible thing, so don't say it again.
I thought you were going Beetlejuice.
Well, same thing. Well, I think Candyman's a little scarier. I think so. It's not fair. All right. After Brock Bowers, Ty Chandler, Dalton Schultz, Jalen Wright, and then Marshawn Lloyd at 12:05 to Debro. Now, we've talked a lot about this. LaFleur very glowing about Marshawn Lloyd. Now, of course, that's what coaches should be with the guys they just drafted. But Josh Jacobs there. A.J. Dillon is there in theory. But in practice, Marshawn Lloyd seems like a really good pick in the 12th round.
Again, shooting upside shots here, boys. I mean, all these guys that can have a flex-worthy role to begin the season, and if anything changes, if Josh Jacobs turns back into a pumpkin, which he was last year, or if he's hurt and dealing with injuries because he has not been the same guy after that high-volume season, Marshawn Lloyd, again, is a guy we're going to be ranking if Josh Jacobs is out for any weeks. Like Erickson's talking about the Corum and stuff. Marshawn Lloyd will be a top 15 back in rankings if Jacobs is gone.
There you go. All right, so Lloyd off the board. A.D. Mitchell goes next at 12:06. Then Cole Kmet at 12:07. Rashid Shaheed at 12:08. More just trolling the board. Andrew Erickson, Tyler Algier. So he's trolled me with Corum and then Algier to Derek Brown. So how does it feel here to be like the jerk in the league, Erickson?
Well, basically, I'm pushing my chips in on some of these backup running backs.
Yeah, but why are they
teams.
specifically on my team and Derek's team? I guess that's the big question.
Well, because I recognize the upside they have. And, something that I've looked at a lot this year and some of my offseason prep is looking at injuries at the team level. So not just like looking at individual players. And the Falcons and Rams are two of the teams last year that were the most healthy on offense overall. So that tends to regress year over year. So if guys get more hurt on those particular teams, who's going to benefit the most? Guys like Blake Corum and guys like Tyler Algier.
All right, there you have it, everybody. Continuing on here, after Algier, you get Khalil Shakir, Jordan Love in 12:11. Then I took Rico Dowdle at 12:12 because I'm just not buying Ezekiel Elliott, folks. Sorry, still not buying. Brock Purdy at 13:01. I'm going to back up my investment there with another QB1 in Richardson just in case things go wrong or an injury happens or something, a matchup I don't like. But I don't think I'm going to be worried about this one. Although quarterback injuries were a lot last year, so having two even in a single quarterback makes a lot of sense to me. Pat Fryermuth at 13:02, then Khalil Herbert. Back to you. Speaking of quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels, lots of rushing upside. I assume that's what's tangible for you at 13:04, and you passed on Herbert for him. So you must really like him here, Erickson.
Well, I had to take D-Rose guy, basically.
Yeah.
That was my plan.
Again, it continues.
It was between him and Herbert. I have them ranked back to back. So I do think that the way that Herbert falling so much, I think it's crazy to me. But you have to recognize that the passing volume is probably not going to be there for him. And the weapons aren't as great as they used to be. Like, there is no Mike Williams. There is no Keenan Allen. So how will that affect Justin Herbert? So I think Herbert does have some question marks, whereas with Daniels, I just don't have question marks about how his rushing is going to translate to the NFL level. Like, he's going to run. We saw Cliff Kingsbury run with Kyler Murray his rookie year, and he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. We talked about it on the Betting Pro show. Jaden Daniels, plus 700, 7-1 odds to win Rookie of the Year because I think he's going to put up production numbers. We had the NFL projections drop on FantasyPros website. Jaden Daniels is a top 8 quarterback just by the projections. So again, like when you put in the numbers with the rushing, it just adds up to him being super productive, and where you can get him in drafts as a super late quarterback. I love the late round quarterback strategy because it's like, oh, Herbert or Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams is still available. Like I feel great about those guys as guys I can take super late to kind of complement the rest of my roster.
After Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert, then J.K. Dobbins, Ray Davis, then Demarcus Robinson to Debro. We'll get to your 2 picks in a second here. We'll sandwich them together. Caleb Williams at 1309, Miles Sanders, then Baltimore Ravens defense off the board. John, you went ahead and selected Matthew Stafford and Keaton Mitchell here. So Stafford is your backup to Joe Burrow, and Keaton Mitchell there. Again, another depth at running back guy for Baltimore.
Yeah, again, I got Stafford because again, Joe Burrow has gotten hurt in times. I did this last year with a few teams, and I did pretty well with it. When Burrow got hurt last year with that wrist injury, I just slipped Matthew Stafford right in, and with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, that went very well. And now I stacked him with Cooper Kupp and then Keontae Mitchell again. Derrick Henry, he is a workhorse. He seems to just get better with age, but you never know what can happen in the league. So if Derrick Henry goes down, Mitchell steps right up, and he's going to get a healthy amount of carries. So that's why I took him as a great option as sort of like a handcuff to Henry.
The reclamation of Quentin Johnson at 1402, then Luke Musgrave, Baker Mayfield, and then there it is, folks. Kamani Vidal. Finally, you got one, Debro. Let's talk about the running back of the Chargers.
Yeah, these last 2 picks, again, it's just going upside with it. I mean, Demarcus Robinson with the Rams, like after week 13, he was the wide receiver 31 in fantasy points per game, and people are forgetting about that. So, time me to a Stafford offense when he's healthy, and Kamani Vidal, again, like, who's he fighting with? It's Gus Edwards and his flat tires, and it's J.K. Dobbins, who the Chargers could actually cut in camp and only be on the hook for $50K in dead cap. So I don't even know if Dobbins makes it out of camp. If he doesn't prove that he's past the Achilles and he has the former burst, this could be Kamani Vidal's. He could be the RB2 on this roster in very short order. And then we're talking about, can he beat out Gus Edwards? Yeah, I think that can.
Don't talk about my RB2.
Yeah. How does it feel, Erickson? Yeah, you got a little of your own medicine there. You like it? How's that taste for you, pal?
Greg Roman loves to ride the Gus bus.
Yeah, he loves to ride running backs.
See if he likes the Vidal train. We'll see.
But if that bus runs out of gas, what does he do?
Well, then he turns to J.K. Dobbins.
You
and
get
then
outside
Vidal,
and you push.
You get outside and you push. At 1406, AJ Dillon at 1407, the Cowboys at 1408, Tyrone Tracy Jr. goes to Erickson, then the Niners defense, Elijah Mitchell. I took Troy Franklin, Bo Nix's good friend from school. Maybe they'll be roommates together at training camp. Cleveland Browns defense for me, the Jets defense, then Elijah Moore. So Erickson, you took Trevor Lawrence here with your last pick, so you got 2 quarterbacks. How you feel about these last 2 selections of Tracy and Lawrence?
I love Tracy's upside. Again, he's only played 1 season at running back, which was last year, but he led the nation in yards after contact per attempt. So apparently he's doing something right, but I do think that he could potentially push Devin Singletary. It may not be week 1, but as someone that a lot of people compare to Antonio Gibson coming out, remember Antonio Gibson was buried on that depth chart in Washington, and then week 1 came along that cut Adrian Peterson and Gibson took over. So we'll see how things kind of shake out with Tracy, but I like him as an upside stash. And then I just chose another quarterback instead of drafting a defense because we don't know the schedule quite yet. And defense for me, I'm drafting strictly on that opening schedule. That's really worked well for me in the past. And so right now I'm just going to take another quarterback with Trevor Lawrence.
Gamesmanship on the 14th of May. I mean, really, Erickson? Really?
Love it.
Audric Estime, Bills defense, Chiefs defense. Debro took the Steelers defense and the Eagles, Dolphins, Jared Goff. John, last selection of the draft. Who's Mr. Irrelevant?
Do I go chalk and just grab a defense? I kind of like what Aaron. I kind of like what you. I kind of like that idea.
Look what you've done. Yeah.
But I like the Texans. Defense.
All right, so there you go.
I think it's going to be. I think they're going to be very good this year. And again, I think to me, Texans going to be a top tier AFC team this year. So
the grades are in. It's a B+ for me. Where that is in the rankings, we're going to look at a second. It's best for 3rd overall, so congratulations to Cheetah, who won the draft. Casessa finished 2nd. I finished 3rd. Trying to look for the rest of the guys. Oh, I see you guys. There you are. 10, 11, and 12. Well done, everybody.
I didn't come in last.
You didn't come in last, D-Bro. That's you.
know,
But here's the thing.
I
boys and
disagree.
girls.
Last in
you
rankings always means first at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. These are the very early rankings, right? So we have some guys, and we're going to talk about a lot of these players for the next 3 months. That the Jonathan Brookses of the world, the guys that are going to slowly tick up in ADP, the guys that, the Vidals, like all these players. This is, again, results-wise, we're talking about trying to get the best process here more than anything. So jokes aside, because it is funny when I'm above all you guys. I do love that because I'm also hosting the show. All you guys have to do is draft. I got to do reads. I got to make picks. I got to ask questions and still draft better than you. It's an impressive thing, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about the team here. D-Bro, let's talk about yours because honestly, there are a lot of picks here that look. You start with Kyler Murray at quarterback. You got Bijan Robinson, Zamir White. I love the running back room. The wide receivers, to me, that's the deficit of this team. And in a year where I think you need those big dog wide receivers, Olave, Devonta Smith, and Deontay Johnson, it's more like a collection of twos here for me. That's how I see this group, but sell me on it differently, and then we'll get to the rest of the roster.
I mean, if you look at this team, I'm garnering volume and I'm going with upside. And yes, does the wide receiver room lack a guy where I can say, okay, he is definitively top 8, top 10? Sure. Does this wide receiver room also going to see a ton of volume? And am I playing matchups throughout the entire season? And if multiple of these guys pop, like Devonta Smith, he ends up as a top 20 guy, top 15 guy, same with Olave, I'm totally fine. And I'm really just mixing and matching my wide receiver 3 spot, and you're telling me, okay, T. Higgins doesn't go away. Demarcus Robinson, people are sleeping on him because I'm here to tell you he's back, and guess what? Tyler Higbee's not healthy. The Rams' offense could be even better with the offensive line and throw more this year, so I like the team. I mean, there was like missteps where it's like, could I have gone with another wide receiver over Trey McBride? But I'll look at McBride as a cheat code. He's going way too late in drafts, and if he is the tight end 1 overall, then he's a difference maker. So some of this is me also putting my money where my mouth is and investing in the ceiling outcomes in some of these players.
Well, having McBride is like having a number 2 wide receiver at tight end. Like that's what you've done here. So you may, almost have to do that though if you are going to roster construct this way, and you did it. So good on you. Singletary at the flex, Pittsburgh Steelers defense, but then the bench is really what I want to talk about. Trey Benson. Love this selection there. Josh Downs. By the way, we all took each other's like backup guys. It's hilarious. This is what friends do. This is the most realistic draft you're going to have with your friends when you get to the end of the year. Trey Benson, Josh Downs, Marshawn Lloyd. Love that pick. Jermaine Burton. Love that pick. We can argue about Demarcus Robinson. I don't think there's enough targets to go around. And then Vidal. So the Lloyd, Benson, Vidal, to me, D-Bro, this is your ability to select these running backs late is the reason why you go wide receiver early, because I think you've got so much talent on that bench, and Singletary is going to get that volume that maybe if you had to do it over again, would you still have taken Bijan? Would you have rather gone with one of the bigger wide receivers still on the board, looking back at how things might be shaping up here in some of our early drafts?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at the board, if I would have not gone Bijan and I would have gone, because I also wrestled with that pick. I mean, going back, yes, I would have changed it. I would have gone, instead of going Bijan, I probably would have gone Garrett Wilson and Puka, or one of those guys. Those are the 2 other wide receivers that I was wrestling with back and forth. But here's the thing. We're in May, so we're trying out different roster builds and going running back early in one of those top 2 rounds. This is the time where you need to play around with builds and say, okay, what does the rest of my team look like if I do that versus going top wide receiver?
All right, John, let's look at your team here. Joe Burrow at quarterback. Love that. Saquon Barkley, Rashad White. I mean, just terrific there. I mean, talk about in a PPR league, the way you want to have. And then you got Marvin Harrison, who could absolutely finish as a wide receiver 1. He's being ranked that way already as if it's already happened. Cooper Kupp could absolutely do the same thing at your wide receiver 2. Roma Dunze, that's a tough one. Rookie quarterback, 3rd guy in the depth chart at wide receiver. Could be tricky, but then Evan Ingram, Jalen Warren, Houston Texans defense. The bench is Brock Bowers, Matthew Stafford, Romeo Doubs, Kendre Miller, Curtis Samuel, and Keaton Mitchell. So when you're looking at this roster construction, what's your takeaway here? First draft of the season, how do you feel?
I mean, we're looking at ADPs now, and everybody's got to know that the ADP now is not going to be the ADP come June, July, August. It's all going to change, especially as we go through training camp and some players start to get some buzz and some players get first team reps, and then we see preseason games. What I like to do when I'm constructing a team is I want to be the best at least one position. And that's what I did when I got Saquon Barkley and Rachaad White, because let's say maybe Rome Ordonez doesn't perform as well as I like. Let's say maybe Cooper Kupp isn't playing as well as I want, or maybe I need a little more bench depth. I can get a haul for possibly a Rachaad White or a Saquon Barkley and get a bunch of potential back that can help my team at the wide receiver position. So that's why I like to do personally. And it's, again, Evan Ingram. He is just in that system. He works so well, and now he's becoming one of the more seasoned receiving options in that Jacksonville offense. So I think, again, he's going to put up top 5 potential for me getting him below Sam Laporta and Mark Andrews and those guys. I think it's a great steal. And then again, with Jaylen Warren, I think he's going to end up getting the bulk of the carries in that offense. Najee Harris, again, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. To me, his days are kind of dwindled, and I think he's going to get 6. It's going to start pretty split, but I think we're going to see Warren get more and more carries as the season progresses.
I'm checking out the expert opinions, and of course, Joe Pisapia gave me an A, so love that guy. He's so handsome, does a good job. Sam Hoppin, guys, gave me an A+. I got to screenshot this and send it to Sam, who we work with here at Fantasy Pros. I mean, I didn't know Sam could grade anything that high. I think that's amazing. I'm very excited about that. Of course, gave me a thumbs down, Andrew Erickson. He gave me a B- on my draft. So, Erickson, let's talk about your roster, shall we?
I gave you a B-. You want to know what you gave me?
Actually, I do.
You gave me an F.
An F?
Too.
Mine was so bad, Joey didn't even show up on my side of the screen. I got nothing. He's not even there, so it's...
You know
I might have a
Big
negative number.
Thumbs down.
Erickson, you know what you should do? If I gave you an F, I think you need to screenshot that, and I think you make your new X banner up on the top over your profile. Joe Pisapia failed my draft. Let's talk about it. Jaden Daniels, who I'm going to be honest here with the grades. Jaden Daniels, love this pick. I think it's a great upside pick in a single quarterback league, and you backed it up later, so you're all good. Travis Etienne at running back. Jaleel McLaughlin is your 2. I think that's asking a little much, but the wide receiver grouping is tremendous. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Amari Cooper, fingers crossed, hopefully things will go well. Mark Andrews, again, if he could stay healthy, it's a great pick there. Xavier Worthy, I love as a flex. I think that's exactly where you want him, and because your build is so good, you could afford to take Worthy there, and it's all upside. Trevor Lawrence, your backup. I love Lad McConkey. This is not an F from Joey P. That's wrong. It's not very PC
Thanks,
of
Joe.
me to fail, my
Makes me feel
friend.
better.
Gus Edwards, Blake Corum, Tyler Algier, Brian Thomas. I give this a B. I think it's a hard B. It's a hard B for me. I love the wide receivers. The running back room is a lot of darts, and hopefully quarterback is good. But I think this is a strong B team. So does that make you feel better?
Yes, it does, because
Good.
now you've ranked me the second highest among all analysts besides me.
That's good. That's good.
Hard
So what do
B
you
is
think
better
about
than a
this?
soft D. That's what I got as a grade.
That's what I've heard. Erickson, what do you think about? Oh, this is why you listen to the whole show. What do you think about this roster looking back on it? Anything you might have changed or done differently?
So I do like the late round quarterback approach. I feel really strong about that because I feel comfortable with the guys I got, and I got them with my 13th and 15th overall picks. So I guess the one thing I probably would try to adjust is when I took the swing on RB2. I was considering it in that same range, round 6 through 8, when I ended up going 3 straight rookie wide receivers. And what the draft analysis is telling me is I reached on those rookie receivers. Now, you can say a rookie receiver's a reach, but based on their kind of wide range of outcomes, it's like I'm just betting on one of them hitting and one of them drastically beating their ADP. So if only one of them hits, I feel good about that. But there are running back considerations. I could have pivoted instead of McConkey. Could have gone Tony Pollard. Like that would have been a better RB2, and then I would still have 2 shots at rookie wide receivers. Could have gone, like you said during the show, Tajay Spears instead of a Brian Thomas. Like things like that are maybe I would go back and maybe change a little bit.
Fair enough. All right, let's look at the Joey P roster here. Anthony Richardson at quarterback. He's going to break fantasy. You want to talk about guys who might finish in the top 3? Let's talk about Anthony Richardson instead of Kyler Murray. That's way more fun to talk about. Kyron Williams and Alvin Kamara in the PPR here. Look, if I can go to war with these two running backs, I'm very happy. I understand there's downside to Kyron Williams. I get that, but it's not like Kamara can't carry me in the RB1 spot in the PPR. CD Lamb, he's pretty good at football last time I checked. He had a gazillion catches for a gazillion yards, and I believe that's the exact number if I'm looking here at the stats. Mike Evans as my 2, Jaden Reed as my 3, Jake Ferguson at tight end, James Conner at the flex, then the Cleveland Browns defense, Brock Purdy on the bench just in case, and then Christian Watson, Tyler Lockett, Zach Charbonnet, Troy Franklin, and Rico Dowdle. D-Bro, what would you give this draft of mine?
I would give it a hard B as well, Joey.
A hard B?
That's
nice,
hard B. Hard B.
I
I like your team, to be honest. So, like, the way that you built out the wide receiver room, and you got a ton of underrated volume with. I know everybody's dying on Kyron Williams because Blake Corum is there, but it's still going to be Kyron's job, assuming he stays healthy. And I mean, come on. Even if he gets 60% of the work, 65% of the work, he's still going to be a top 15 running back, maybe still an RB1 in that offense. So I love that you went volume. I guess my biggest question, Joey, is could you have gotten another Packer on this roster? Because you went Reed and you went Watson. Like we should have gotten one more Packer to satiate Pat Fitzmaurice here, right? Like, come on.
I got 2. I thought Pat would be proud of me. I tried to get 2 in there. But look, you and I both know if Christian Watson's healthy, he is the game-changing, game-breaking guy. So Jaden Reed having both of them, to me, it's different roles in the offense.
Agreed.
So it's to me, that's okay. But look, I would definitely.
I'm busting your chops, but they're both really strong picks, man.
I think it's a pretty. What I'm looking for, D, is I'm looking for guys who are going to win me weeks. Kyron can do that. Kamara can do that still.
Yep.
Richardson certainly can, and CD Lamb certainly can. So, like, if you have enough of those guys on your roster, typically good things will happen. But I have to say, it's going to be a really interesting draft season. We're going to be fighting over a lot of picks for a very long time. John Supowitz, thank you so much for joining us here. Check out his work at FantasyPros and at Betting Pros. And of course, check out all of the new stuff that's up and running over at FantasyPros.com from Derek Brown and from Andrew Erickson. Andrew and I just did a Betting Pro show too, looking ahead. Early futures, get a jump on some stuff before other people do, and that schedule comes out. Great stuff as always, and shout out to our production team, always making incredible work here for us. So join us on our Discord, be part of these mock drafts with us, fantasypros.com/chat. It's free, it's fun. Go join today and go start drafting on your own with the Draft Wizard. Download Draft Wizard, go to fantasypros.com/draft wizard and start your mocking. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on for D-Bro, Erickson, and John. I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Let's go get some endless shrimp before it's gone.